On today's edition of Cronkite Sports Live, Arizona State football faces off against their final non-conference opponent. We tell you what's at stake and what Chef Kenny Dillingham is cooking up.
Sun Devil Volleyball is off to their hottest start since 2015. We crunch the numbers behind their success.
And ASU soccer has plenty of new faces. We'll fill you in on some of the key contributors before tonight's game. All of this and more on Cronkite Sports Live.
From downtown Phoenix in Studio 6, welcome to Cronkite Sports Live. Jonah Krell alongside Riley Swenson. And Riley, last Friday, we had the underclassmen on the desk, some young pups in Ben and Blake. But today, we have the upperclassmen taking back our territory, the Bulldogs, if you will.
Yeah, Jonah, you're absolutely right. And ASU is going to be seeing some Bulldogs this weekend themselves in the form of Fresno State. These two teams come in on different trajectories, to say the least, and both have plenty to play for. For ASU, they are looking to avoid a 1-2 start in back-to-back seasons for the first time since 1998 and 1999. They're in the same spot they were a year ago, being 1-1 with a loss to Oklahoma State when, as we all well know, they lost to the mighty force of Eastern Michigan. Thanks a lot, Herm. And if you're thinking it won't happen again because they're playing a group of 5 team, that's where you're wrong. In the Sun Devils' last 8 games, they are just 3-5 against the Mountain West, including a loss to, you guessed it, Fresno State in the 2018 Las Vegas Bowl. As I just mentioned, Fresno State is not your average group of 5 team. To break down the Bulldogs, we bring in a dog of our own in WCSN football reporter Ben Paris.
Arizona State isn't just hosting some team from the Mountain West in their final non-conference game on Saturday, but a team who is on an 11-game win streak and has won their last 4 bowl games they've played in. The Bulldogs were the #1 offense and #2 ranked defense en route to winning the Mountain West last season, as they averaged 30.6 points per game while their opponents only scored 19.4. Through their first 2 games this season, the offense has scored 73 points thanks to the big arm of redshirt sophomore and UCF transfer Mikey Keene. The Chandler, Arizona native has thrown for nearly 600 yards so far in the 2023 campaign and has quickly developed a good chemistry with senior Eric Brooks, the 5'7" slot receiver who is quick off the line and has generated 3 touchdowns early this season. The Bulldogs will throw fast and throw often under the direction of head coach Jeff Tedford, who returned to his alma mater in 2021 after a stint as the head coach from 2016 to 2019. On defense, Fresno State often likes to present what's called a bear front, a popular run defense that utilizes 3 defensive linemen and 2 edge rushers to create a 5-man rush. The scheme is meant to prevent the big run on the outside, which means Cameron Scadaboo and the ASU run game will have their work cut out for them. Senior linebacker Lavelle Bailey has showed his ability to be a disruptor on defense after closing out against Purdue with a batted down pass in the 4th quarter, along with an overtime interception to walk it off. The Bulldogs and Sun Devils will meet for the first time in the regular season since 1941 in a game that is critical for the momentum of both programs.
Thanks, Ben. Now, while Fresno State looks to keep the winning streak rolling, Kenny Dillingham has chosen to roll the dice this season on 4th down with some mixed results. Our Blake Neiman does his best Jonah Hill impression and gives Dilly Dilly some Moneyball advice on his newest segment, Blake's Take.
The 4th down dilemma. When it comes down to the final down of a sequence, a coach is left with 3 choices. A, punt, B, kick a field goal, or C, go for it. Most coaches play it safe and choose option A or B, but Kenny Dillingham often prefers option C. Dillingham has backed his decisions by saying that statistically, on 4th and 1, teams convert over 75% of the time. But the Sun Devils have had just a single 4th and 1 scenario this season. They went for it and failed to convert. Outside of that, ASU has rolled the 4th down dice on 5 other occasions. Ironically, the 2 best bets that ASU hit on came on the longest lines. First, a 4th and 8, 47-yard touchdown connection between Jaden Rashada and Xavier Guillory in the season opener. Then the duo hooked up again, this time on 4th and 10, with a 34-yard strike versus Oklahoma State. Now, I'm no financial advisor, but looking at it right now, Dillingham's better off investing his trust in his defense than gambling on his offense hitting the jackpot.
Thanks, Blake. Now, staying on the topic of Dillingham, sometimes he brings out some interesting analogies. Coach gave one of his more intriguing ones earlier this week when he went off on a tangent about truffle fries. Check this out.
What is that really expensive thing that people put on fries? I'm spacing on it. Yeah, truffle, right? My wife always talks about it, right? You know, truffle's elite, but you can't put truffle in everything. So you've got to find a way you may have an elite guy at some place, but the truffle may not make it better because the recipe is different now because you don't have these other ingredients. So even though you have truffle there, you may not be able to use it if all the other ingredients are here. But I think that's the best way to explain offense and defense in football is everybody wants to treat it as it's one person or it's one this. No, it's a recipe of success. And one person may be so great at all these things, but because you don't have these other things at your arsenal now, this person may not be as successful with this current recipe. And you've got to be able to adapt to what you have and then be as successful as possible with it.
Sorry, Kenny, but you didn't really help me understand. You just made me hungrier. Luckily, WCSN football reporter Sean Brennan was there on Monday on a full stomach to catch Dillingham's explanation and can break down the Sun Devils' recipe for success on Saturday.
On the heels of last weekend's 27-15 loss to Oklahoma State, ASU football is still searching for the perfect winning formula. But head coach Kenny Dillingham will have to put his chef's hat on and quickly whip up the recipe for success for this weekend's main course in Tempe, the red-hot Fresno State Bulldogs. After starting 2023 2-0, Fresno State has won its last 11 contests, dating back to Week 6 of last year, good for the second longest winning streak in the FBS. With that said, here's the winning recipe for the Sun Devils this weekend. Ingredient number 1, an effective run game. In the second half against the Cowboys, ASU logged under 3 yards per carry, and simply put, more is needed here. Doing damage on the ground opens up the passing game for whoever starts under center for ASU, and that was certainly a weakness against OSU on Saturday. With a depleted offensive line, this ingredient could be missing in Dillingham's pantry, but as the saying goes, the trenches are where the game is won and lost, and if Dillingham and company wants to make a tasty dish, an effective run game is a must. Ingredient number 2, sustained drives. Through 11 possessions against OSU, the Sun Devils scored on 2, averaging just 5 plays per drive. A low offensive snap count didn't give ASU's defense much time on the sidelines, especially in the second half, leading to the Cowboys serving their own dish in ASU's kitchen. Limiting opportunities for Fresno State to dice up ASU through the air will pay dividends, so it's essential that the Sun Devils put together sustained drives on offense. And the final ingredient, a healthy serving of chaos in the backfield. ASU's defense has been a bright spot so far this season, but will have its work cut out for it against the Fresno State attack that attempts over 40 passes per game. Chandler native Mikey Keene's poise and ability to make quick throws have already been evident through 2 contests, as he's accounted for 6 of Fresno State's 9 touchdowns in 2023. The Sun Devil defensive line recorded its first sack of the season against the Cowboys, and it will surely be licking its chops to serve pressure inside Keene's pocket. This weekend's contest against a formidable opponent will be challenging for ASU, but we'll see if Chef Dillingham can serve a refreshing dish to cool off Fresno State's hot streak.
Kenny and crew are going to need to find those right ingredients for not only this week, but throughout the season as they move into Pac-12 play.
Yeah, Riley, this week the conference made headlines in the AP poll, and it's the subject for this week's Impact.
8, that's right, 8 teams were ranked from the Pac-12 this week, the most of any conference in the country, and a record for the Pac.
And those 8 teams are a combined 17-0. The only other conference to have this many teams ranked at once is the mighty SEC, who has done it 21 times. Talk about good company.
Yeah, no kidding, Jonah. And in the SEC, they say it just means more. But this year in the Pac-12, you could say it means the most.
Yeah, maybe a bad breakup, but really, the destruction of the conference was just the motivation it needed. But it is early, so we'll see how the Pac-12 shapes up when conference play kicks into gear.
All right, so plenty of undefeated football teams in the Pac-12. We're only a couple weeks in, whatever. But how about Arizona State volleyball? They're undefeated, but with 11 wins on the resume. The Sun Devils swept Little Rock earlier today in their second game of the Beale Street Challenge to get to 11-0 on the season. To help us crunch some numbers behind the team's success, here's Max Cepeda.
Thanks, Riley. Arizona State volleyball is undefeated this deep into a season for the first time since 2015 and became the first D1 team to reach double digits in the win column this fall. For a program that, for the first time in 5 years, is not playing a ranked opponent in their non-conference schedule, it is not necessarily a surprise to see ASU handling its business. The Sun Devils have been, to put it mildly, slaying on the attack all season long, as they lead the pack in hitting percentage at .344, and they are just one of 2 schools in the Conference of Champions alongside Wazoo to reach at least 400 kills and assists. This has been mostly led by the efforts of ASU's premier vets, like Latvian superstar opposite hitter Marta Levinska, who leads the conference in service aces with 22 and is 4th in kills with 123. Still, as they finish non-conference play this weekend, it will be intriguing to see if the Sun Devils can carry this historic momentum into this coming Thursday against the school down south in their home opener at their new home Mullet Arena, as they begin a brand new Pac-12 campaign that looks to be, for the final time, as competitive as ever. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Max. That 2015 team you mentioned, like Vince McMahon once said, they were special. To highlight them, we need to go into the vault with our very own Crawford McKinstry.
The fall of 2015 was a very different time. Hotel Transylvania 2 had just released in theaters, Fetty Wap hit his name all over the Billboard Hot 100, and ASU volleyball started off their season 15-0. Under head coach Jason Watson, 2015 was the time the Sun Devils made the NCAA tournament. Arizona State torched their competitors to begin the season, only dropping 6 out of their first 52 sets. The Sun Devils won 12 out of 15 home matches, including a victory against rival U of A to open up Pac-12 play. ASU's defense put their opponents in a chokehold, allowing only a 178 hitting percentage and finishing within the top 15 for both total team blocks and blocks per set. While names like outside hitter Jelly Sear and libero Mary Schroll headlined today's roster, the stars of the past had some game too. Senior middle blocker and All-American honorable mention Whitney Follett anchored ASU's defense, finishing the season with 113 blocks, good for 6th best all-time in a single season for ASU volleyball. Follett's 2015 campaign put her in elite company, becoming only the 4th Sun Devil to record 400 career blocks. Despite their success, Arizona had to fight through some challenges. After winning 15 straight and peaking in rankings at 5th in the country, the Sun Devils' ascent to the top quickly turned downhill. Over the last 17 matches of the season, ASU volleyball would pick up only 4 more wins, a stark contrast from their blazing hot start to the year. As the end of the regular season rolled around, Arizona State sat at 19-13. Although they couldn't keep up their early season onslaught, they still secured a spot in the NCAA tournament. The Sun Devils went on to lose to Florida State in the first round, ending their season and beginning a near decade-long stretch without a postseason appearance. J.J. Van Niel and the Sun Devils of today look to emulate their success from years ago and potentially usher in a new era of winning for ASU volleyball.
Thanks, Crawford, for that look into the past. For ASU soccer, it's all about the present, as head coach Graham Winkworth has shifted gears this season with an overhauled roster. WCSN soccer reporter Devin Henderson is in studio to break down some new faces. Devin, what do you got?
Yeah, Jonah, Sun Devil soccer is back, and there's a lot to be excited about for the new season. Look, we saw some notable old faces leave the program last year, but never fear because the new talent is here to make an immediate impact. There are 15 new players in Tempe between transfers and freshmen, and naturally not all of them will play right away, but a month into the season through non-conference play, 4 players have already established themselves as key contributors to the rotation. I'm talking about forwards freshman Savannah Maley and 5th-year transfer Suzuka Yosei logging big minutes up top, both over 60 a game, already scoring goals for the Devils. I'm talking about freshman midfielder Ella Apquitna, who started 6 of 8 games, grabbing a goal for herself and absolutely running the middle third. Man, I'm talking about freshman defender Emily Simpson, also starting 6 games so far, and who you may not see scoring many goals, but best believe she's been locking it down in a back line that's only allowed 3 goals all season. Look, we can talk all you want about the players that have left and how great they were, but let's talk about the here and now. Right now, Pac-12 play is coming, Oregon State next week, and through a month of the season, these 4 look to be the ones leading ASU into a new era of Sun Devil soccer in the Valley of the Sun. Guys?
That was kind of his message to me, was don't waver, that it doesn't matter, don't worry about the results right now, worry about the process. And if you stay true to the process, the results will happen. And I really appreciated that message from a guy who's done it a long time, who's been really successful, who's seen a lot of people succeed and a lot of people fail.
That was Kenny Dillingham last Saturday talking about the advice and wisdom he received from Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy. And the truth of the matter is, Dillingham has already been sticking to the process, and he's been given every chance to waver, starting with a bowl ban that crushed the spirits of seniors just wanting a crack at the postseason. How about making a late shift to a true freshman quarterback as your starter, or dealing with so many injuries that you can't even have a full scout team to practice against? Well, Kenny, you asked for adversity, and now you got it. But throughout it all, he has trusted the process to build his culture. He dismissed 2 expected contributors from the team in training camp. He brought back Camp T, now a leadership council. A standard is being set to be a good person and to get better every day. And don't get me wrong, the process has its growing pains too. Dillingham is taking a good hard look in the mirror at himself, pointing out to the media when he makes an in-game mistake. He knows it's not going to be perfect right away and sees the long term, but he also sees the present and hates to lose. After the loss to Oklahoma State, he barely slept and rewatched the game 3 times. So you can criticize Dillingham all you want for the 4th down calls and the so-called blunders, but that's not going to change a thing. He's shown that he's not going to sacrifice anything to develop his foundation, culture, and process. And Sun Devil fans will just have to be patient along the ride, because just maybe they'll reach their ultimate destination. And that's the way it is.
Time for some top plays at number 3. We head out to the pitch down in Tucson. ASU taking on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And Texas Tech with a chance to score here, but Pauline Nels in net says, how about no? Flips it over the top of the net. The Sun Devils would lose 1-0.
At number 2, we go to ASU volleyball taking on Memphis. First set, Shannon Shields sets up Marta Levinska. Bam! A Latvian laser. Sun Devils earn their 4th straight sweep.
We started top plays with some football. Let's end with some football. I'm talking about Jaden Rashada going deep to his man Elijah Badger. 65 yards, reservations for 6. The Sun Devils would lose 27-15. They'll look to bounce back this week.
That'll do it for us here in Studio 6. Make sure to keep it locked on all our platforms this weekend to follow along with the ASU action. For everyone behind the camera and the studio, Jonah Krell and Riley Swenson saying so long. Have a good one.